Okay, so get ready, things are about to get complicated again, I'm afraid. My synth is working, but the envelope is basically a simple off to on. I don't have a ramp, for example, for the attack. Let's start with that. Now, we already created our abstract of ADSR, which is, here it is. So we will be doing quite a lot of work in there, but let's get ready for it. So I'm going to go over to the note project. And I'm going to place another multiplier between the phaser and this multiplier here. This multiplier, if you remember, is the one that allows our note dynamics to be controlled with MIDI note velocity. And here we're actually going to bring in something that controls the amplitude before that, which is going to be essentially the main working component of the envelope. So let's tidy things up a little bit actually while we're here. Let's move that number over there so we've got more space to play with. Let's delete this. Select it, Command 1, multiply tilde, patch that to there, push that down a little bit. And the second input to this, I actually want to come from my ADSR abstract. So Command 1, ADSR, there it is, and I'll patch that into there. Finally, I need to connect the unpack output here down to the ADSR so I can actually trigger it with the MIDI notes. Okay, so that's pretty much set up. Now we've probably lost all the ability to play any sounds because that's just a 0 feeding there into the ADSR value. So moving over back here, I need to put a whole bunch of stuff between this inlet and this outlet. Let's move that down there. Now, forgive me looking aside because I need to check my notes for this because it's somewhat complex. I will just add everything, then we'll stop the video, and in the next video I'll go through and explain everything so you get a chance to catch up. So first thing I'm going to add, round 1, is a cell 0. Simply put, a cell outputs a bang from the first outlet when the input for the live entrant is equal to that of the reference. So if I get a 1 coming into here, this will output a bang from here. If any other value enters this inlet here, it just passes that output through the second output. Okay, again, we'll come back to that in a second. Next, I'm going to bring in a trigger, T for trigger. A trigger will output things in order of right output to left output, so the backwards to what you might assume, T for trigger, and the type of messages that I wanted to output in order are all bangs, so B, B, B. So I want to trigger this from the second output, as it happens. What I mean by this, well, the importance of this, is that anything that's not a 0, i.e. any note that actually has a velocity that isn't 0, will make this trigger occur. If it's 0 itself, it won't. So this is actually what makes sure that this only actually has an effect when I play a note, not when I stop playing a note, for example. Next, I need another object of a 0, because I need to trigger this 0 from one of the bangs. And I need a pack. And this is going to be pack 1, 0. We saw packs earlier. We'll see exactly what this does slightly later. I'll do some patching of this. So I want the first output bang to trigger that 0. And I want the second one to trigger this packed message. Next, one of the main components to make this work is the line. So I'm going to type line tilde. Now, this attack isn't just an on-off. We need a continuous ramping value from one point to another, from silence to maximum note velocity. And that's exactly what line does. It actually will output a series of numbers connecting the dots between two values. The first value is going to actually be this 0. So every time this works, it's going to start the note off from silence. And the second values, and actually the time it takes to do that, will come from this pack here. So this line is actually going to be triggered twice. The first 0 in here will just say, go to 0 immediately. The second input here, which is triggered afterwards, because this is a trigger that does things in order, will say, go to the value of 1 at this particular speed, which I will patch in just a moment. So as you might have already guessed, that's going to come from our attack parameter, or the slider we've already set up. You can see in the behind here in the first synth project. I'm then going to connect the output of this to the outlet so we can then pick it up and feed it in the note to this multiplier. So as I said, we want this actual value of how fast it ramps from one to the other to be controlled by the slider we've got here. And we saw, remember, we've got to send A. Well, unsurprisingly, I can now go to here and go RA, patch that to here. And now that allows me to actually control the value of how quickly it jumps from one position to another. Okay, so in the next video, I'm just going to go back and re-explain that, possibly a little bit more clearly, so that you have a chance to put this together first, and we'll come back to it. See you then.